Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Georgina Fleming, and I'm one of the Education and Media Technicians here at CaseWare UK. Today, I'm joined by my colleague, Anthony Launchbury, and he's one of the Senior Education and Media Consultants. During today's webinar, we're going to be looking at assurance. And Tony is going to be taking you through that presentation today, and I'm going to be working away in the background, monitoring the questions you raise during the session. Now, feel free to log any questions. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. We will try and incorporate as many of your questions into that time as possible. You can log those questions via the questions field on the GoToWebinar panel, and like I say, I'll be monitoring those for you. So we are recording today's webinar, and we will publish a recording of the webinar on the knowledge base, and depending on how many questions we receive, we may also publish a Q&A document. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Anthony.
Thanks there, Georgie. Hopefully you can hear me. See that coming through now?
Yep, all coming through fine.
Super, excellent. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending the insurance webinar. Thanks there, Georgie, for the introduction. There is an agenda of what we're going to cover for the session, which was up on the events page on the CaseWare website. So anyone who's had a little sneak of that, you probably already know what we're looking at, which is good. Effectively, really what we're doing is looking at the differences today of the assurance template and how we can use it and adopt it. It incorporates the Audit Exempt documentation and the Mercia review pack, so the assurance documentation for Mercia, and we're going to show you how to get that set up. Now, there's a couple of little areas that we need to have a look at, and there's differences within the template. So there's lots of different approaches we can take. We can take a free-form planning approach. If we're looking at the assurance or Audit Exempt, we can also have the difference between a single work program or multiple work programs, depending on what we're selecting. So I want to have a look at the setup, make sure everyone's confident with that. We've got mixed users on the line today. So we've got some existing Audit Advanced users who are going to know a lot of the functionality anyway. We've got newer users to CaseWare who won't know as much. Now, this is going to be a webinar looking at just really the tailoring and the setup of the assurance engagement. If you want any other guidance, please go to the CaseWare knowledge base, and on there you'll see lots more articles and help and tips on how to use other aspects of the assurance engagement templates. Okay, all right, so what we'll do then, before we do move on, just reiterate the guidance and what's available to you. The CaseWare knowledge base is there. It's got loads of articles, webinars. The functionality for the assurance template is the same functionality as what we'd use for the Audit Advanced template. So that's whether we're looking at company audit, charity, or academy audits. So head over, because lots of tips and guides there are going to be useful across the Audit Advanced template range. Okay, all right. So to work today, what I've got is I've got a few files. So I'm just going to close these slides down for a moment. All right, so I have 4 files open at the moment. So let's go into the first one here. So I've already created the file. Okay, so hopefully that should now all be shown on your screen. You should see the new digital dashboard. The new digital dashboard is available within the assurance template. And depending on what engagement you're using, engagement type, so whether you're using the fully Audit Exempt or whether you're using the assurance pack, it could depend whether we can flip back to the old dashboard, because that is still active as well for certain elements of this pack if we wanted to use it. Now, when we create a file, the only difference, as most of you would probably guess, is that we need to make sure that we select a different template when we're creating our file. So when we're creating our file, what we'll have, we just drag this CaseWare over. There we go. When you go through and create a file, what you'll have is the option to select an assurance template. Okay, so what we'll need to do for you to start using the assurance template first hold is to acquire the template from CaseWare UK, install it on your machines. You will need to install the common components of the assurance template. So for the existing users who are used to installing company audit template, or after that you install the common components, with the assurance template, you do exactly the same. So this is where you're going to access that assurance template, okay? It'll be here when you go through and create new files. Now, you're going to leave that screen open and go back to the main file. Now, this file, what we're going to do is we're going to set this up as an audit exempt file. And what we're going to do here is we're going to have a look at, say, a single word program approach within this engagement. Now, we've also got some files open down the bottom. So this one's an audit exempt file. Here, it's using the old dashboard. That should be loaded. I'm just looking to see if that's loading up on your side here as well. There we go. So that should have just loaded up now on your screen. So this isn't the audit exempt file, and I've reverted it to the old dashboard. But this is using the multiple word programs approach. Okay, so it's a lot more detailed. Now, the other two files we've got open down the bottom will be my assurance templates. Now, or base just for assurance, so the Mercia review packs. Now, what we can see here is this file is going to be looking at the full planning. So when we look at the other side of the pack, we can use full planning, or what we can do, if we skip to the next file, so you'll see that loading on the moment, this one here, we're going to see that this one has a free-form planning memorandum. Okay, so this is looking at a free-form planning memorandum here, B11.3 and B11.3 form. So we're going to have a jump in and out of all these files, okay? I'll try and make sure it's as clear so you know where we are at each stage, because I imagine some of you get a little bit of a lag because you're on GoToWebinar. So I'll try and be quite clear to say what screen we are on at every stage, okay? If you do get stuck though, please feel free to ask Georgie to say, okay, can Tony go back over that part, or send us a question over, okay? Brilliant. All right, first off then, let's look at the tailoring. Now, when we first create a file, okay, so we call this one Audit Exempt Limited. When we first create a file on a dashboard, it's going to highlight to us that we haven't optimized the file yet. We haven't made some key decisions. And we can see that by the warning triangle over here. Now, by selecting that warning triangle here, you can see the little tooltip, maybe that's just where my mouse cursor is. It says CW Prelim. What that's going to do is open up the Prelim document here if we were to select it. Okay, so both of these will open up the Prelim. Now, when you go into the Prelim document, I've already populated it for most part today. The areas that we don't really need to have a look at, so areas like whether you're going to use the Mercia A25, or whether you want to use CaseWare's PMSD, which compiles the high risks and the issues and so on. We're going to focus just on these three questions here. So the first one is the assignment to use the Audit Exempt pack. Now, from here, it's a simple case of just going to the drop down and you'll have three choices: yes, no, and not applicable. But what I'd say for this template, it is a lot more crucial just to get a good understanding of this blue text here and say exactly what it's, or know exactly what it's telling us. So the key part here really is, if we want to use the Audit Exempt pack, is a simple case of yes, we will use the Audit Exempt. If we mark it as no, then what this is going to do, that's going to go through and select the Mercia review pack, the assurance pack, okay? Now, at this stage here, this doesn't automatically update to the next two questions. Now, the next two questions are going to look whether it's a free-form planning approach or whether it's a single or multiple work program approach. Now, what we can see here from the titles of the questions is that the assurance, well, the second question on is that this only applies to assurance assignments, and the third question down, well, that only applies to audit exempt assignments. Okay, so if it doesn't apply, then we just need to mark these as not applicable as we go through. So here we've said that we're looking at an audit exempt, or is that what we're saying? No, so we should be looking at assurance then. So if that's the case, then we need to go down to this question here, the second one, and just say, well, okay, for this one, are we going to use a free-form planning memorandum? Yes or no? If I change this to a yes, because we do want to have this as an audit exempt pack, so say there's a yes, then the next question is simply not applicable, okay? It's not designed for audit exempt. We do not use free-form planning within the audit exempt pack. So what we'll do here is we'll select that as not applicable, and you just move on to the next question, okay? And then the next question there is, are we going to use a single simplified approach, or are we going to use multiple work programs? So yes, we're going to have that single work program approach, or no, we're going to have that multiple work programs. At this stage here, I don't feel under pressure if we were to make a decision yes or no here. So if you are newer to audit assurance work and you're setting up files and you're a bit unsure, if we say yes here, we want to take the single work program approach and we remove all the multiple work programs from it. So for the specific financial statement areas, we can always build them back in later. So don't worry if this choice does change. CaseWare's automation can build these documents back in quite easily. Okay. Now, this one here is I do want to select the single, that bespoke work program. Part of the session today really is going to be geared up to showing you how to manually populate that work program. As you can imagine, it says bespoke work program, so there's nothing on there. It's up to you to design that and implement it. Okay, so I'm going to leave these as they're selected. We have got the two assurance options available down the bottom. So we've got the review pack with freeform planning, and we've got the review pack without freeform planning, so the full planning approach. And we've also got the other option for audit exempts. So with the other option for audit exempt, we've got the full work program approach. Now, there's differences between all of these, between where we record materiality, where we record certain understanding of the entity. Because the planning documents and approach has changed, the documentation is slightly different. So the way we interact with it, again, from CaseWare side, is also slightly different. So that's why I want to have those four approaches in that, just so we can go through the differences in those key areas. Okay, so we'll start off then by just optimizing the rest of this file. So I'm going to select save, wait for that to complete down the bottom, and once we select save, I'm going to go to the AOCR. I always get in the habit of using the toolbar. This toolbar button up here has an extra bit of script on it, which will close and reopen the AOCR. So the AOCR hyperlink here will open it up. We haven't got it open down the bottom. But once the AOCR is open down the bottom, the hyperlink here, that AOCR hyperlink, will only ever navigate you to the open AOCR. Now, with the AOCR, it's not an automatic document. So if we did change our response to say, okay, we wanted to work with a single work program approach, we no longer wanted to have multiple work programs. If we were just to go back into the prelim assignment tailoring here, so you can see me just jumping back on the tab now. And then once we're back here, if I change my response to these questions and then just clicked on the AOCR here, it would just navigate us back. It wouldn't update this document. It may say to us that, okay, there may be considerations here. We may have updated certain areas of the packet that we may want to refresh this document. But just clicking on that link here doesn't refresh it. Clicking on the toolbar button here, which is this button, the white piece of paper with the red tick, that runs a bit of script and will close down the AOCR, as you can see down the bottom of the screen, and it reopens it. Negative side, it takes longer, but that's because it's doing more. It's making sure that we're checking it, that document's checking to make sure it's up to date and it's marking the right documents for deletion. That's the same across the whole Audit Advanced product range. So whether you're using company audit or charity audit, that is applicable. Okay. All right, so when we're in here then, this is again very similar for those existing users of Audit Advanced. We just want to review the sections. So don't review the granular detail. So just review the section, is this a new or existing client? Well, we said no. So it's getting rid of all the new client documents and money laundering checklists and so on, as we'd expect. So just read the question or the heading here. Don't worry about looking at the granular detail. Just double check the heading. So yeah, Irish clients, audit exempt, excellent. Once you go through these and you're happy, then just go down to the bottom and select proceed to delete, and we'll delete those documents in exactly the same way. Like I mentioned though, if we do go through and change our, we've made a mistake, we need to update the prelim. Say we mentioned there it was the new documents have all gone. To update this, all we need to do is change our response in the prelim, change that back to yes, save the document, so back up to the save icon, and then reload the AOCR. So just to prove the AOCR hyperlink there doesn't update the document, it tells us when we get there that changes have been made, but as you can see, there's nothing here that's changed. But if we go back and then we select the icon on the toolbar, then what we're going to see as that loads through is that it's going to now look to say, okay, this is a new client, and it's going to keep that new client documentation in there, or it's going to ask us to build it back in because we just deleted it. So there we go. So you can see here now we've got it's asking us to build these new client documents in, which we can do by just clicking on this icon and then selecting yes to add it in from the Documents Manager. I'm not going to do it this time. I'm just going to say no, and I'm going to go back to the Prelim. I'm going to quickly change my response back to no. I want it to be consistent through with the other files. Okay, so I'm just going to save that and then go back into the OCR. Now, that's the setup. That's the main difference. Now, what I say is there's a lot of documents within the template. So whilst we're waiting for this to load and generate and gather information again, I'm going to go through and open up this CaseWare here. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to create a file. I'm just going to go into the template quickly. Okay, so go into the template and I'm going to drill into the assurance template. When this opens up, it's going to take a moment or so. It looks very much like the CaseWare file, as you'd expect. It's a template that builds your CaseWare file. So it looks very, very similar when we open up. It's hard to tell the difference, to be quite honest. But once we're here, from the documents here, I just want to give you a glimpse of all the documents that are in there for planning. And also, there we go. Now, when we create a file, it's got all this documentation in there. So it's got over here, we've got the engagement partner review and conclusion, the 821-1. We can see here there's an assurance document because within the template, you can see the tags that are assigned to those documents. These tags help with the automation and the running of that utility, the OCR, by stripping out documents. And over here we can see, okay, so ASM there, so assignments, summary memorandum, and this one here is one for assurance, and here's one for audit exempt. So we get an A25 here and an A25 dots. Simply any documents here with a full stop at the end. So A25 full stop is going to be audit exempt. A22 full stop, audit exempt. So when we're looking down this list here, anything with a full stop on the end is an audit exempt document. Okay. All right. So just to show you here the bulk of documents. To activate the tags, if anyone wants to, they can just right click on the header bar here or go to view, reorder columns, and then just from the hidden column side, you can move tags across. There's a few other useful items that you could move across, but tags would show you these assurance or audit exempt tags. So at least you know exactly what is in the template and you can see what's being stripped out or what's being kept in. Okay, so I'm just going to jump back into our first file then. So this is going to be our audit exempt one with a single word program approach. Now let's have a look here. There we go. So that's all back now to as we left it previously when we deleted those documents. And down bottom here we've got this. There we go. So that's all in. Perfect. All right. So at this stage then, let's have a look at let's go back to the dashboard. So let me go back into the file and we'll have a look at the dashboard. The dashboard doesn't automatically refresh all the time. We do need to refresh it ourselves as we go through. It is marked to, I think it's refresh every 2 minutes or so. But if you're in between there, then you have to manually refresh it. But once you do that, you can see the dashboard then updates. So the dashboard updates here to show that this file is, we've got the B11 audit exemption planning and the B12 audit exemption. So this one looks a little bit more familiar with the full pack because we've got our B12, B13, but the B12 and B13, this audit exempt work is audit exemption eligibility checklist and client needs checklist for B13. Okay, so we can access these directly from the dashboard. If I click on the B11 quickly, here we go. So that should be loading up. Give that 2 seconds. Perfect. There we go. So from this point here, when we're in this document, you can see the sections are made up in very, very much the same way. Okay, you will get the same message at the top of the screen to say the procedures have been deleted by the optimizer and to review these deleted procedures. My recommendation wouldn't be to review the deleted procedures unless you know you got something wrong with the prelim. If you know you got something wrong with the prelim, so actually it is a new client and we've marked it as no, again, that should be Okay, I'm back on the prelim now, so you should see that highlighted at the top. So if you had got this question wrong, and the client actually is a new client, then that's the only time really from the B11 document when you saw that bubble at the top to say review them, that would actually review the deleted procedures. And to do that, you just click on procedures, and from there you can select review deleted, and you'll see all the areas that the optimizer has removed. So money laundering master checklist there for new clients. Okay, all right, so I'm going to deactivate that quickly there. So at this stage, the B11 is very familiar. It's obviously not as detailed as the full company audit B11 checklist. However, it's got the same sort of approach. Now, from here as well, what we have is overall materiality. So I'm back on the dashboard now, and this is in the Audit Exempt single work program file. So you can see here by double clicking on the materiality, what this will do is, there we go, just loading up now. There we go, opens up the B32 FSA document. So for the company audit, for people who are familiar, slightly different here. You used to go into the B41. Well, when we're looking at Audit Exempt, and we're going to be looking at a single work program approach, what it does is it navigates us straight into the B32 FSA. Okay, there is no individual materiality document within this pack. Instead, you will go straight through and enter in your materiality levels here. Now, I'm just going to jump into the Audit Exempt with full work programs as well. So this one here, so Audit Exempt limited full work programs. Now at this point here, again, we've got the materiality and approach from the dashboard here. But if I was to select this, again, what you'd see there is I get the B51, so I can record my overall approach. However, the B32 FSA is still the document where I'm going to go through and enter in my materiality, and then enter my performance materiality as well. Okay, so we'll just go straight here. We'll enter those figures in. If you want to build your own materiality memo for this and add it into your audit evidence, then you can add that into your documents manager quite easily by dragging and dropping. As I said, the single work program approach file as well, which I'm just going to jump back into now, is exactly the same. So at this point here, you could type in your 100,000, and then when you go for calculation, just remember on these cells, so if I did go through here and type in my 100,000, you can use asterisk and then 0.75 to use it as calculation cells. They are formula cells. They're not the same as Excel formula cells, so we can't go to the level of detail that you would be able to in Excel, but you can do very simple formulas in here with plus, minus, times, divide, so on. So that's how you're going to record the materiality within the Audit Exempt. Now you've also got the two assurance files that we have open. So the first assurance file there is one which has got full planning. So I was going to go through and open that up quickly. There we go. Just changing the name sang as well to make it a little bit clearer. And there we go. So just so it's got the right name popping up at the top. So this slide here, the way we record materiality here is slightly different. So what I'm going to do, and this is the full planning. Okay, so we can see again we've got the full planning down here. We've got the B11 review engagement, audit exemption, eligibility, and acceptance of appointment. So you can see these B12 and B13 are updated and are slightly different in this engagement than what we saw previously. So if I go to the Documents Manager here, we can see this is the audit exemption eligibility checklist and the acceptance of appointment and reappointment B13. So again, a little bit more familiar, but going back to the dashboard here and selecting the overall materiality, what this one actually does when we're in the assurance, when we're looking at full planning, what that does is we have a B32-1 materiality document. So not using B41, we're using B32-1. But you can see that for the users of company audit or the other audit advanced templates, that the document is very familiar and goes along the same structure as what we'd see across the Mercia range. Okay, now at this stage here, it would still be the case of marking as prelim, locking those results in, all important in case that trial balance updates. and down below we go through and we can enter in our percentage, transpose those figures into our materiality schedule. At that stage, we'll then go through and populate our materiality. Now, there is a slight difference here than the company audit, and I think probably most of you would have picked it up from the table up here. What we've got here is the performance and materiality. At the moment, it's populated by the 1.8, so that the misstatement materials users. So that's where we go through it. I'm putting my 1.8%. At the moment, this is a recorded bug and will be fixed within the next template updates. Okay, so bear with on that side. Now, with this as well, it does feed into the B32 FSA. So when we jump into the B32 FSA, you'll see that these sections now will work in exactly the same way as our company audit. The key differences here from the company audit would be that CaseWare doesn't automatically select the trial balance or the VAT work program, as you can see selected here. This is actually my manual selection. So I've manually gone through there and included the trial balance work program and the VAT work program to include within my pack still. Okay, so I'm using the full planning on this side. So I wanted to include both those work programs. If you do, it's the same case as what we're used to within the company audits. It's just to tick the box, mark that as material. You also get the same warnings up, so which is very handy. At this stage here, you can already tell that I've run that automation, because when I click to make the intergroup balances material, CaseWare is telling me that, okay, you're running the risk of not completing enough audit work here because you're saying it's material. However, we can, well, if we went back to the actual documents manager here, we'd see if we went down to intergroup side, we haven't got the work program in there. We've already removed that within the optimization functionality within CaseWare. So what CaseWare is going to do then is going to highlight that to us and give us the opportunity just to build that back in. And when we build that back in, say, oh no, there we go, add that back. I was working earlier, so excuse me here. If for any reason you can't add documents back in through the FSA, the reason being here is because it's trying to look to a separate reference. Okay, so when we set this up, the FSA document, we start off with the review pack from Mercia, and we have the audit exempt. So what we have in there is effectively two sets of work programs. Let me show you quickly. So this is back in the template. Okay, so that's just loaded back on your screen. If I scroll down here, what we'll see within the audit areas, there we go, expand, is there's actually two work programs. Okay, so we've got a work program for the review pack, and we've also got a work program for the audit exempt. So remember earlier I said to you that we've got a full stop after a reference. So I think we're looking at the A22 full stop, and that marked it as an audit exempt. We've got the same here, so we've got D with a full stop. This one here is marking it as an audit exempt document, and this one over here is an assurance document. So when we set up the FSA document, we thought it'd be more common when people are using the FSA document, or more common to be using the audit exempt pack. So when we look at the FSA document over here, these references here are on the assurance template. They're pointing to the audit exempt documents. So even though it's got a J or an L here, it's pointing to additional documents. So what you may need to do, I'm just going to jump back into the assurance file that we're looking at there, and from there we'll look at our B32 FSA. Let's open that up. So that should be just loaded back on your screen now. Mine's loading on my side, so just give that a second to load through. There we go, because over the J review there we go. So when we are updating these and we're trying to build these back in, what we should also do, we need to make sure that these links are up to date and they're linking to the right financial statement area. So it may be K here, but is it going to K dot, or is it going to K? So we can always update these references on each row of the FSA. So it's very flexible. We can go to right click, annotate reference, and then you can go from that annotate reference to any area of the pack. So when you went down to specific areas now, you're only going to have one work program in there rather than the two. So it's nice and easy. It's not, you wouldn't get confused linking those. Okay. All right, so that's that side of the assurance pack. Now I'm just going to jump to the other assurance file. Now the other assurance file here is, let's just go, jump, there we go, 2 seconds. Okay, there we go. All right, so that's now loading up. It should be refreshing. Excellent. All right, so this one is again slightly different. This is the assurance template. So it's the assurance template, but not using the full planning documentation. Instead, it's using the free-form planning. Now, when we use the free-form planning, the main difference is here, we're going to look at the documents manager. We look around the permanent file documentation. This will be trimmed down with when we're using the free-form planning. So if I jump back to the full planning with insurance, you can see these documents as we expand through a bit fuller, a few extra folders and extra documentation in there. Now, at this stage here, if I was to go through and open up the B11 freeform and also the freeform planning memorandum, which I've got open there. So what we're looking at now is the freeform planning checklist. Again, it's got links in there to the money laundering specific risk masters ID checklist, as we'd expect. But what we've also got in here is areas where we link through to the B11 freeform planning memorandum. So we'll select on the B11 free. Open this up. Now I've already entered some information down here for materiality. So let me just drag it back up to the top. Okay. So this is the freeform planning memorandum within the assurance pack or the review pack from Mercia. And when we're in here, what we can do is at the start, we record our approach services. So lots of this information is what we're recording within the planning permanent file sections within our packs. As we go down, we're going to go through and see the materiality schedule. So again, there is an automated materiality option within the freeform planning memo. And we can use this to go through and populate our preliminary materiality over here. Now, what we do at the same point, we need to update the B32 FSA. So when we've looked at materiality and we've made our assessment, we do need to go through to the B32 FSA. And once we're there, what you can do is then go through and enter the information within the cells, as you saw earlier within the Audit Exempt packs. Okay, this information here will then go through and populate, and then the final levels over here will be updated from our input of the final overall materiality within the cells, as we can see on the screen. Okay, now at that stage, I mean, these are the main differences within the pack. I would say the first thing we need to do when we're looking at this is really have a good understanding of the questions on the prelim assignment tailoring. Okay, so make sure that we know that if we're looking at the audit exempt pack, that we need to select yes here, and if we do select yes, that when we go down, that we need to ignore the next question. We have support calls coming from people that use the assurance pack when they're first setting it up, where they go through and mark the response as no rather than not applicable. The not applicable response is geared up to pick up the correct level of documentation based upon the tags that you saw earlier within the template. So it's critical really that we do select not applicable rather than no, even though you may think it does the same, it actually doesn't for the software. Now, then we need to make sure we have the right selection for the single word program selected or not. Now, as I said earlier, we can always update this later. This side isn't as critical as the one above because there's not that many documentations and word programs that we need to build back in. So if we did select single and we wanted to use a full word program approach, it's not a problem retrospectively adding those in, which I'll go through and show you in a moment. What I really wanted to do these is just highlight the differences in documentation. Also to go through and highlight the dashboards. They're geared up to reflect the information from the assurance pack, the review pack, and also the audit exempt packs. So these will update as we go through. Things like the work programs tailoring. Here we can see that we've only got one. Well, this file is set up for a single work program. If we go to the next file along, which is the audit exempt, but with the multiple work programs, you can see here on the old toolbar, it's got all of the all of the documentation, all the work programs there ready to start. Now, I can always change this back to the standard layout, and you can do that by going to Tools, Options, and from here, Layout, and we'll change it from the assurance workflow, and we'll change it to the audit dashboard. Okay. Now, I'm not going to change it on live, but I can see once you do change it back, it will just go into the exact same look at this. So just to show you on this side, Options, layout, and then we've got the audit dashboard selected. So it is just the audit dashboard. It's easy enough to go through and change at any stage. Okay. Now, when we're looking at the audit exempt pack here, so this is the audit exempt pack for multiple work programs. You can use the new or old dashboard. They both work, and they're both geared up for the work programs that are within that pack. So, for example, if we go down here, we've got our section here, so our audit exempt program for fixed assets. We don't have a separate work program within the audit exempt pack for tangible and intangible. And that's why really this dashboard will work at both levels. Now, as I said, we can always swap that back and then swap it over to the audit dashboard, and it will just load back in. Now, from both dashboards, whatever one you're using, if you are using the one you just saw a second ago, the older style, it may be because you haven't got the up-to-date assurance template. So please make sure you do have the up-to-date insurance template and the right common components installed. It's very critical as you go through and set these files up. When you're in there, we can see that it updates effectively. So now we've shown us 14 work programs that require tailoring, whereas see the single work program approach just has the individual one. Now, when we are working in an audit exempt file and we're just having that single work program approach, what we also need to look at doing is updating the FSA. So I mentioned it earlier. So if we go back, so you've got the B32 FSA here. So it's going to open up that document. Now, when we first set this up, we set it up so it's looking at audit exempt and it's looking at a full work program approach, okay, rather than looking at using an individual work program approach. So the FSA document here, you still may want to do this to have some sort of assessment to say, okay, well, taxation, it's a material area, so we want to look at building certain types of procedures in within that single work program. However, just because that's changed it to single work program, it keeps the old work program reference there. So what you're going to want to do, like I showed earlier, is just link this through to the new individual single work program. If that was a little bit quick there, because I was just trying to look at the screen that you're all seeing. If it's just right click within the row, go to annotate, and then from annotate here, we can go through and select the individual work program. Now, here we can see when we expand the working papers folder, we've got our B work program at the top, and at that stage you just go here and select OK, and then you can see that that's now updated. So once you've made your assessment, so once you've gone through, you've populated your B32 FSA, so you've got trial balance in there, you've set your materiality. At that stage then I would then go through and look at the material areas potentially and update them. Now you will get these indicators here on the right side to say to build these documents back in, but these are not designed to build these documents back in. It can't build the B back in. So all we can do here is right click and we can just cross-reference it to the new work program. Ooh. There we go. So you need to do that individually on each row. Then at that stage, and if you didn't want to show the material areas because you just wanted to focus the planning work on material areas within that individual work program, you can go up to options, and from there you can have the option there to hide by removing the tick next to display non-material items. So at that stage then we're only going to see the material items within this screen. Okay, so hopefully that may help with targeting your planning. Okay, all right, so that's the FSA. So what I'm going to do quickly now is I'm going to show you how to build in the accounts documents. Now, it doesn't matter what pack you're using, whether you're using the assurance review pack or whether you're using the audit exempt pack, you can all build in accounts wherever you are, okay? So the accounts function here can be built in from the new dashboard by going to, here we go, components, and from components we can click the accounts button here, and it will start refreshing and loading those accounts in. if we had the old layouts, let me just change this one back quickly. So we should see that now. We go to assurance here. If you were using the old assurance template because you haven't had it updated, or you're just using the old Audit Exempt one for the full work program side of the pack, then you also have the ability through engagement setup to add in the accounts as well. Okay, so you can build in the accounts documents here, and that will do exactly the same thing as we just did in the Audit Exempt pack from the main digital, the new style digital dashboard, by using components and accounts here. Okay, and then back and forth, there we go, and then there's our accounts folder, and we can get to work. So that's how you're going to build your accounts in. So if you haven't used insurance folder, it's nice and easy to get that accounts documents wizard and so on built into your documentation. Okay, so the other side, and I'm a bit conscious about time here. The other side that we said we'd have a look at is just going back to the agenda. We look at the single work program approach tailoring. Okay, now on that side here, it is very quick and easy, so it won't take a couple of minutes just to show you. But the single blank work program here, if we open it up, is exactly what it says on the tin, a single blank work program. So it's up to you to go through and tailor it. Now, in this section here, what you'll see is there's got financial statement areas in here. So we've got stocks, income, debtors, bank cash, other areas which can include these. So that structure's already there for you. If you want to go through and you want to build in procedures looking at stocks, then what you need to do is put your mouse cursor within that row, within that section, right click, and then go through and select insert new procedure, or you can use the green plus icon up here on the toolbar. Okay, hopefully you can see my mouse circling around that. At that stage, you can then go through and insert as many procedures as you want. It's pretty quick to add in procedures. It doesn't take too long. What I would say, if you've already got a pack there that maybe you're moving over from a paperback to the CaseWare electronic version, then we can use copy and paste from your old, say maybe Word digital pack to CaseWare's electronic quite easily. Or if not, just type in the text here for your individual procedures. The results side, again, once we enter anything within the results, you can see you get the opportunity here to sign that off. Okay, so at that stage, all right. So the work programs here, you can set these up. You can edit the responses at any time as well. I just saw that. So you can always go back and edit and change these. You've got the same lockdown as you have in the full company. So what we can do here is you've got the availability of the padlock as well. So if you want to lock all these procedures down at a planning stage, so after a partner or a manager review, then what we can do is use the padlock functionality to lock down all procedures, or as you can see there on the screen, lock existing procedure customizations. Okay. So it's nice and easy to edit these procedures. What I'd say is after you have entered some text in, so let's just copy the text above quickly. Say Control C, and I'm using Control V. At that stage, once I've edited the procedure, what I'd suggest is you lock this down and you remove it from modifiable mode. So at least that way it stops me accidentally putting my mouse cursor there and updating it. Okay. All right, the only other thing really on editing that will help you is that you can import procedures from other files. So if you've already set something up, you can have a resource bank and you can import from that resource bank into your CaseWare file. If anyone wants any more information on that, then feel free to put a question in the question field. For the time being though, again, conscious about the time, so I'm just going to go back to the slides, ask Georgie if we've had any questions coming.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, we have had a couple of questions in. So the first one is, how can we copy work programs that are the same across multiple engagements?
Okay, CaseWare structure doesn't allow us to copy work programs across multiple engagements. Now, what we can do is in year one, if you've got, say if we do lots of work for estate agents or something along those lines, and we have an insurance back or Audit Exempt backs, what we can do is we can create a file with the main framework that you want for that type of entity, with the procedures you want for that work program, and we can use functionality to copy that file. There is a procedure for it where we need to, let me just show you quickly. So let me go back to the CaseWare. Let me just open up the CaseWare file. If you are going to copy a file in CaseWare, if you are going to set that framework, first of all, maybe ask a question. We'll get in touch with you after, maybe run through a few steps. However, what you need to do is when you are creating a new, take a copy of a file. So if we take a copy of this one here, once you've taken a copy of it, what you want to do is rename that copy. And when you rename that copy, what we need to make sure we do is we give it a new identifier. So you can set up a template for specific industry types and have that with pre-populated work within the work program. However, it's only going to help us in the first year because everywhere it's going to obviously go off in its own directions from that point. However, once we have that template, take a copy of it and make sure you come to rename file here, select your file from the list, and once you select your file from the list, just use this one here, for example, give it a new name, so new name, component 1 or whatever it may be, and then make sure we tick the box for generate new identifier for this file. That way the file knows it's a unique file and it will take updates individually from the template. If anyone wants further guidance on that or wants to run through that with me or with help from the support team, then please get in touch, put a question in the question field, and we'll arrange a call for you. Okay, so Georgie, I'll go back over to you.
Perfect, thank you. So secondly, we've had a question in, I have made the wrong selection and deleted planning documents that I now need to build back in. Is there an easier way of adding multiple documents back in rather than one by one via the AOCR?
Yeah, there is. I think the first thing is always like, let's be careful, make sure we're taking our time answering the questions on the prelim, because it does have a big impact on the files. However, I know what time pressures we have. Sometimes we don't have the luxury of spending extra time double checking our responses. If we do mark these incorrectly, so we do have this as a not applicable when it should be applicable or vice versa. And then what we can do is rather than go into the AOCR document here, and you saw that icon that I clicked, there we go. So this icon over here, you can left click. Yeah, if you've got lots on the list, it can take a while. So what I'd say, if you've really made a mistake, then I would just go back to my CaseWare file. So go back into CaseWare file here. And if I haven't done any work on the pack yet, okay, if I haven't done any work, what I'd do is I'd get rid of the working papers, the schedule section, and I would take a brand new copy of that assurance folder structure from my document libraries. And I'd drag that original setup back into my file and rerun the optimization just to make sure that I've got all the right documents in there. If there's quite a lot wrong and you've got lots of documents to add back in, that would probably be quicker and give you the assurance that you need to say that you've got the right documentation within your pack. Okay. Was there any more questions there, Georgie?
No, there's not. That actually concludes the questions for today. So thank you to those that logged the questions. So as I've said at the beginning, the webinar today is being recorded and will be published onto the knowledge base. So looking ahead at our upcoming webinars, then you can see those on the screen there. If any of those grab your fancy, then you can head over to the events page of our website, take a look at the agendas and register for those over there. So that concludes today's webinar. Thank you very much for attending today. We do hope you found it beneficial and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Take care. Have a good afternoon.